This is a prepaid collect call from
Tommy Dela Cruz.
An inmate at McDougal Correctional Institution. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hey, H, how you doing? I see everybody liked my last excerpt on YouTube, and that's encouraging. And I'd like to provide, those supporting it, another excerpt to my upcoming memoir titled Allegedly Not For Nuttin by Tommy Vendetta. And so it's another character that I'd like to describe to people that's going to be in the book, and I hope they'll enjoy it. So here it goes. I was exiled to live in a world where hard men ruled with iron fists and a piece of cold steel. These unforgiving borderlands that separated those who lived their lives in accordance with the laws from those who lived their lives deciding for themselves what, if any, laws they will abide by. The number one most important rule that I was taught was that race is the standard unifier that functions to keep separate groups out of each other's faces and respectful to each other's businesses, legitimate or otherwise. The rats and child molesters were to be dealt with by their own race first. The quality of self-regulation that ensures there's no contamination of the good guys from the lowlifes. Soon after my introduction to the block, I was informed that a high echelon Irish gangster had transferred down from the feds. Word was the man had spent 17 plus years inside the most notoriously known federal penitentiary across the country. His name was Barnoski, and he was reputed to be one of the original members of the prestigious Winter Hill Gang out of Boston, Massachusetts. The newspapers claimed he was one of the most dangerous men alive. An executioner, the headlines read. The papers claimed a lot of things, like Billy B operated $10 million a year, loan shark and bookmaking and cocaine business too. It was even said, while he attended trial, law enforcement put together a SWAT team, and they had them all located on different rooftops for good measure. The movie, The Departed, was based after his crew, and so was the movie The Black Mass, which starred Johnny Depp as the infamous charlatan Whitey Bulger, that piece of shit rat. But that's another story. Hearing that such an elite member of the underworld was housed in the same block that I was sort of like being a fan of rock and living right next door to Elvis Presley. This man was a fucking star. You bet your ass that I not only wanted to meet him, but I was hoping to be his friend too, genuinely. I knew my worth. My friendship would be an asset to anyone who had it. But a man of his stature could never be approached by an outsider or someone of my age. For anything good to work, he'd have to initiate it. And that could only happen if Billy B were to recognize that something uniquely special existed in such a young man as myself. Something unparalleled among the rest of the crowd who petitioned for his favoritism. I was endowed with special talents due to my life experiences. And one of those gifts was the ability to magnetize. Can't really explain it how it works. You just have to watch it to understand. That said, I was eager to be recognized by a man who's become a legend in his own time. So I crafted my ability to suit my present needs. Not for nothing, it worked. Because unbeknownst to me, Billy B was scoping me from the moment I entered the unit, utilizing his godlike intuitiveness to read my sins and appraise my worth. He was the best at it. He evaluated men on a micro level. Nothing was too small to see with the naked eye. Decades of living among a society that engaged in the worst of crimes and vice had given him superhuman powers that magnified images like a microscope with extra vision too. The fifth morning
to recording and monitoring.
The fifth morning of waking up in the joint in Shirley Max, I woke up to the sun beaming brilliantly inside my cell. The radiant energy exhumed my body from the hells of my dreams. And once I awoke, there was no way of going back to sleep, not with this sunburst stabbing my eyes. It was almost a time for rec, so I quickly freshened up. Wished I had a cup of coffee to stimulate the day. Was at a canteen. I was told it'd be another 4 days to drop my slip, meaning ordering food for the store, so I was hit. I made my way to the flats, and seeing that the phones were empty, it was testing me to call Lisa. I fought it for a good hour, but folded on the next. I missed her, and I needed someone to bond with. The phone rang 4 times before the voicemail picked up. I tortured myself trying it 5 times more, but she was ghost. Turning to walk away from this torturous fucking device, I encountered a mean-looking brawler approaching me. His hard-looking mug stared directly into my eyes, and I knew he had something important to say. "Hey, you, Billy B wants to see you," he said, pointing over to cell 8 on the flats. Stunned and excited that the notorious gangster wanted to speak to me, but still being clever about it, I said, "Okay, I'll be away in a few minutes." No, that's not how it works here." The hard-looking barked back. When he calls you, you go now, you understand? His body spoke serious. All right, I got you, I said, knowing this wasn't debatable. Billy B was summoning me to appear directly outside of cell 8, and I needed to be there 2 heartbeats ago. I was 7 late. I stood studious 3 feet outside of the cell, which held the legend of the cell that held the legendary man. I expected to see him standing waiting for me in front of his cell door, but all I could see was a shady cell from the respectable distance I stood. I wasn't going to approach the door or peer inside. That would have been disrespectful, a violation of etiquette. Instead, I practiced a little patience before calling, "Hey, Billy, I heard you wanted to see me." Staring starry-eyed forward, I noticed the shadow dancing off the inside of the cell by the door until Billy B's presence conquered it. The man stood 6'4", and his eyes were iceberg cold. Prophetic blue intelligence penetrated the windows to my soul. And for the life of me, I couldn't blink or look away once he got in. I felt that I was in some kind of trance where my life somehow hung in the balance. But I didn't care, and I suspected he picked up on that too, as he inventoried my soul. He then smiled in a way that indicated to me that I had passed his divine survey. "Hey kid, I saw you getting the newspaper off that guy upstairs. Are you with those guys?" He asked a rhetorical question, but I answered, "No, I'm not." "All right. Well, you want to read this paper here?" He said, showing me the Boston Herald through the window. Sounding like a wide-eyed kid, I said, "Yeah, definitely. That would be great, Billy. Thanks a lot." But at least I got it through. The shock factor of what it meant for Billy B to proffer me his newspaper. "Okay, you'll get yesterday's news every morning here at 9 a.m. If you're late or you don't show up, don't ever expect to get this again. Is that understood?" "Yeah, I got you, Billy. It means a lot to me, so I won't be late. I'll be here at 8:55 sharp. How's that?" I said, with my eyes emitting pure respect. "That settles it. I'll see you tomorrow, kid." It's how the notorious gangster introduced himself to me, and I was fucking thrilled. I walked away swelled with honor for how Billy B considered me on his paper, knowing it posed as an olive branch towards earning his friendship. I went to bed that night thinking maybe there was a God favoring me after all. This chance, crisscrossing with this creme de la creme of gangsters, was like meeting that fucking movie star you love. It makes you go wow. Which is why it took until 3 in the morning for me to finally fall asleep. Not a deep one, more like a paradoxical sleep, because my mind wouldn't stop thinking about that 9 a.m. appointment to get the newspaper from Billy B. The next morning, at 8:55 a.m., I made good on my word. About 30 seconds early, too. It was paramount that I showed strong principles. My age was already 2 strikes against me. Any waiver from them would have 86'd me, meaning I would have been done before I even got started. Although I was early, Billy B purposely made me wait until 9 a.m. sharp before he appeared at the door and slid me his newspaper. This simple yet severely complex exchange was the seed of us building a remarkable friendship over the years to come. The notability of our bond was something for the fucking books. Over the passing weeks, I continued the same routine, never a minute late, never a minute past 8:55 a.m. And my discipline was noticed. It showed order, and Billy B respected that. He embodied controlled behavior, a monistic order. He was a serious man who was never concerned with the trivial matters. And day by day, he was teaching me that a lot of what I thought was serious issues were in fact not. He would trivialize a lot of things that I brought up. And although I didn't like it, I listened. 18 years later, I'd see he was right. I loved watching him move. He exuded a business-like demeanor at all times. By his mannerisms, you would easily believe he just walked out of a fucking office meeting instead of coming from his cell. And I loved it. He was a man of class and dignity that belied the oppressive prison conditions we all lived under. His prison uniform even seemed transmuted into a
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
By the tailored work that he'd have fellow prisoners do on each uniform he wore. It wasn't long before me and Billy B were moved out of the OU and housed again in the same block, P1. This exact unit was depicted in the national news headlines in 2006. And of course, this was Billy B's doing, and I was happy about it. Billy B had taken me under his wing. That was fucking huge. The significance about this was that I was 19 years old, and it's beyond rare for a man of this caliber to recognize a person of my age, which is now speaking volumes to my peers after the caliber that I was. Honorable, loyal, and ready to do whatever it took to rise in Billy B's eyes. I was now the apprentice of an elite gangster, bonded to him by my word that I would listen more than I spoke. And with that, he promised to teach me me everything he knew about life and true gangsterism. That old stuff that wasn't watered down. He made it clear to me that he was only investing in himself because it became apparent to him there were elements about my character giving me an advantage to exceed this new age of thugs whom were tearing apart the true meaning of what a real gangster consisted of. Reminding me it was nothing of what I may think it is to be a true gangster. I was given the privilege to sit with him in the chow hall, and anyone who's been in real prison knows how major seats are in a chow hall. It symbolizes to CEOs and prisoners your status. The designated seat confers superior standings and evidence of distinction. As with most scenes, there is an accepted decorum, and prison chow halls hold no exception. Walking in the chow hall for the first time, I couldn't understand why there were men standing up eating in the four corners of the mess hall. So in the process of getting my tray, I say, "Yo, Billy, why those guys over there standing up eating? Not everyone gets a seat. No fucking good ones like them. The guys that stand up here are the ones you never want to associate with. They're either suspected rats, or got fucked up cases," he said. That was all he needed to say for me to understand what I was looking at. I walked proud behind Billy B as we made our way to this table. We sat on the left side of the chow hall, in Irish claimed territory. I wasn't Irish, the Italians were on the right. None of them at the time over there held such renowned status as Billy B. Positioned at different tables around us were rough-looking Irishmen, whom were all surreptitiously watching out for Billy B. The man had an army everywhere he went. They seemed to manifest out of thin air. They watched him and protected for good reason. It was their prophet. A third man sat with us. Scotty was his name. I liked him on the spot. Scotty Too Hotty is what his pals called him, and so would I. Minutes into eating, a fight broke out 22 feet from us. Black-on-black crime. Two dudes beating the life out of a third man, but no fighting chance of winning. By the looks of it, he'd be lucky if he escaped with his life. Blood splattered everywhere as four mean fists pounded this almost carcass that splayed out on the table. It was an extravagant display of violence. It was very entertaining. The instant the fight broke out, all the Irishmen around us jumped up to form a human shield around the table to ensure a safe perimeter for their leader. I watched the mayhem play out as the mob of blacks posted around the brawl, a strategic move to buy the attackers more time to hurt or kill. This group was far from chanting Black Lives Matter. It was more like, kill that motherfucker. I watched the cops vainly attempting to make their way through the prison barrier, not rooting for them at all. Business was business, and they were handling theirs. Fighting in the chow hall is the most dangerous place for the COs to respond to because of what I just described and because it has the highest potential to turn into an all-out battlefield. The spectacle amped me up like a speedball racing through my veins, and in the midst of stretching my neck to catch all the action, Billy B called, "Hey Guns, sit down and enjoy your meal. It doesn't concern you, does it?" He spoke with such calmness, restraint, and grace, and his words were like enchanting music to hear, considering the slaughter occurring steps away. "No, it doesn't," I said, before emulating my friend. I regrouped and began enjoying my meal, copying Billy B as if nothing was occurring. Yet I couldn't keep my eyes off my friend. There was more entertainment in watching him serenely eating butter in his bread with a certain elegancy than watching a man getting beaten to death.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
This man's mannerisms were captivating. It indicated to me
1 minute left.
It indicated to me the depth of his gangsterism, and I was confident that I too one day would inhabit that. It was an experience that made me believe the gods had synchronized our paths to cross for special reasons not yet revealed, and I wanted to learn more. Over the years, that theory of mine would be proven correct. My cell transformed into the Coliseum every night at 5 until 6, sometimes a lot longer depending on my bloodthirst. The routines varied, but they were all gladiatorial, pushing myself into a zone where rage, movement, fatigue, and hatred of the system crossed into a physical violent stage. Visualizing the faces of my co-defendants, traitors whom I mistakenly called friends. Sometimes I'd shadow box so long that my arms became so heavy to throw another jab at the seared images in my mind of Eddie and James' faces, being broken, caved into paradise of human continence. My heart screamed for revenge, a vendetta that superposed my yearning for freedom. And that's the ending of the excerpt that I'm providing on October 25th of my upcoming memoir titled Allegedly Not For Nuttin by Tommy Vendetta. I hope those who view it, I encourage them to press like and share it if they enjoyed it, and it encourages me to share more. And I appreciate those four who took their time to write me a supporting letter. It's very encouraging to receive, and as you saw, if you have received it, I've responded back. And thank you.